Of our small anime breast tutorial. In this tutorial, we're going to look at two different positions, sort of a position where the chest is going to be squeezed, and then a position where they are jumping for joy, so we can kind of see different angles of the chest and how it's going to interact. So, for this first one, I'm just going to do what we did last time: shoulder line, center line, rib cage, draw it out like this, put our shoulder circles just inside the rib cage, connect up in the middle, and then follow the tops over for our collarbone, neck, traps. Then we will follow the rib line down tightly for our waistline, and throw in a little belly line. Alright. From there, we are going to start in our little shoulder socket, and we're going to push our arms like this. And we're going to have them sort of squeezing against the chest, and we'll see how the chest sort of interacts with that. Alright, so our arm over here on the right is squeezing in a little bit more, so it'll be little bit different looking than the previous. So as you know, the chest is going to be sitting kind of out on the edges right here, but now that we've got something pushing and moving it, all this mass here has to go somewhere. So what's going to end up happening is we're going to give just a little bump over the arm like so. So as you can see, it's kind of coming much closer to our center line here, and it's barely bumping over this arm here. And as we look at larger chests, this will be much more exaggerated and probably a lot easier to picture, but for right now, it's still going to be doing some of the same physics, just not as exaggerated. So now we're going to do the same over here. This time, this one is getting pushed in a little bit more aggressively. So we're going to actually not just connect it down like this, but we're going to have a little bit of the chest under the arm. And this is pushing it past the center line. Like so. So we're still trying to keep that vague sort of teardrop shape. And we're just really squeezing the chest together here. So even with a small chest like this, they're still going to come almost completely together. And in fact, with this one just a bit over the center line, since this arm is pushing in a lot harder. So it looks something like that. And it'll be more visible in the line art section. So for now, though, we're just going to get into the sort of celebration pose. So we're going to put in our center line. And from that center line, instead of just a straight line like this, we're going to angle both of these lines up. And first we'll put in our rib cage, that'll make it easier. So angle up, put in your rib cage, and then just through the almost through the collarbone here, almost at the halfway point of our shoulder circle, we're going to plop in the actual circles. I'm going to not make this rib cage quite so wide though. There we go. So from there, we're going to draw in our little shoulder line here, along with this front part of the chest. From there, from the rib section, we just kind of want a straight line that comes up and grabs the back of our shoulder. That is the lat. And we want the lats to be pretty small on our little character here because she doesn't have very well developed lats. From there, we can have our arms coming up like this. So from here, what you want to do is see this pit line right here. You basically just follow that into the bicep. And then from there, the base of our shoulder circle will have a shape come out like this for the tricep. They follow this shape like so. From that little nook, we then add some pretty curved shoulders here because they're pulling everything up, so they're going to be kind of pinched. From there, we can drop in our collarbone, like so, still basically connecting to that top portion of the shoulder like this. Then we want our neck, like so. And then this time the traps here are actually going to be quite high, and it's because they're helping to pull everything. So they're not going to be low and tiny like we've been doing. They're actually going to be kind of high, almost to like this middle part of the shoulder. Now, because she's jumping for joy, we're going to keep her midsection even skinnier because everything's being stretched upwards. And then we're going to look at the movement of the chest here. So what would be happening is normally if she just had her hands up for no reason, her chest would not really see a lot of movement. It would just kind of be stretched and it would just be sitting here. But because she's jumping, the mass of the breast is going to be coming upward. So what we would see is a little bump above our shoulder line along, maybe a little bit different of a bump here, just trying to get the right shape. You see a little bump as well as a little mark here for where the chest is actually sitting on the ribs. And this is because they are basically getting pushed this way from the force. So the tops would be like over in this area, right? Like the front. And again, we don't want to get too heavy with our lines here. We're just insinuating the curves and edges because she's still a small character. So now we will do the line art and we can kind of discuss a little bit better what we're doing here. So again, a little bump around where the breast is kind of getting squeezed. Gonna add in our arms here, like so. You can do this whatever order of operation is easiest for you. Oh, that shoulder line's terrible. So redo that. Like so. There we go, that's better. Add this arm. This bottom part's really getting squeezed, so it's going to be under the arm slightly. Then our neck, traps, details here, belly, like this. Then we'll come over here to our jumping one. So again, just a little curved line here, like so. Rib. Oops. This. From there, at this, I'm not going to fully connect it to the bicep. I just want to insinuate that that's the direction it's headed. I'll put this in. This. Larger traps. This up. Some little rib marks here. And there we go. So, again over here, the breast itself has to move somewhere. So we're just trying to plot out how that's actually going to look. So, since this arm is pushing in, moderately so, it's just going to push the chest up and over. Right, so it's going to be a little bit more circular. It's going to pudge out and over this arm just a little bit. And because her chest is small, we're not just using big, shapes like this. We're just trying to use little tiny shapes to insinuate what's going on. Same with over here. Even though this arm is pushing in way more than the other arm, to where we see that it's kind of has some of the chest under the arm, and then the main mass of it is kind of getting pushed above the arm here. Basically, we want to, and because it's getting pushed harder, it's actually coming over the center line. So this one's close to the center line over here, and this one is over the center line. So we're just trying to realistically capture the squeeze on the chest and how it's going to contort and warp. And this will be even more exaggerated on our larger chested characters, so it'll probably be a little bit easier to understand what's going on there. But for now, just stick with using little detailed lines for your small chested characters and it'll go a long way. Same with over here. So for this pose, again, we haven't really looked in detail to the pit area of a character, but this is essentially what you're going for here. You can connect this line if you want, but it looks a little bit more realistic here if you just leave it like this. You can think of it, this area right here is your rib cage. This is all part of it, all in here. But then you have a little part here. This is your lat. So everything right here is the lat. And right here is the little bump on the arm where it sockets into place. And this right here is your tricep and your bicep. So you're just trying to figure out how they actually set into place. And what's easiest for me is the little chest muscle right here. This is going to be pretty much even with the bicep line, which then just curls up to here. Come around, give a little bump into the pit, and then you want to just link the rib cage here with your lat right here. And keep the lat pretty small. You just want to give them kind of a nice V taper, so it's like that. But because this character is pretty skinny, we still see the little rib cage bump. So it's not just a perfect V shape. It's a little bump with the lat, with the little pit, coming up something like this. Then with the shoulder, you really want to round them and squeeze them since the arms are coming up. And because of that, the traps here are also going to be higher than normal. They're coming up because they're pulling everything up. But I still attach my collarbone to this upper part of the shoulder. You could get away with doing something like this too, but for me, I like just keeping it all one line. It's just how I do it. But now the chest is in a little bit different of a situation because it is no longer hanging down like this. It's actually angled upwards like so. So because of that, you're just going to draw the little peak and then the little part here that's attached to the actual rib cage. And on our larger chest, this shape wouldn't be like this sort of this sort of little, I guess it'd be concave, but a little line like that. But instead it would actually be more like this because it's hanging over the ribs, right? So it'd be like this. You could still do that for your small chested characters for sure, but because she's got such a small chest, I just wanted little tiny lines here and here just to show that there is a mass, this whole area is the boob. But if we leave it with these smaller lines, you have to kind of make some of the detail yourself in your mind, and it kind of helps to push the visualization of a very small chest. So hopefully you found this helpful, and in the next tutorial we'll look at slightly larger chest, and so some of this stuff will be a little more noticeable and maybe easier to understand there. But hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.